Hi, I'm Justin Crosby and welcome to the last show in the current series of TellyCast before we take our summer break. This week we're in Cannes for the Lions International Festival of Creativity. The temperatures were soaring as the world's biggest tech platforms from Amazon to Zoom, BuzzFeed to TikTok and Spotify to Netflix rubbed shoulders with AI companies, advertisers and agencies all cramming onto the Croisette and the hills and shallow waters around the city. With multi-million-dollar beach stages and installations from the Palais all the way down to the Martinez, this is the city's biggest conference event of the year. My guests this week are Jason Day from AI platform Luma Labs, Will Scoogle from Studio 55, and Emma Hardie from Aardman. I hope you enjoy the show. So I'm here with Jason Day, who's head of EMEA for Luma AI, which is an AI platform. There's lots of talk about AI, obviously, here at Cannes. Jason, welcome to TellyCast.
Thank you very much for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, well, I've just had a demo of your platform, really impressive. But first of all, let's talk about Luma AI. Give us a bit of a history of your platform and what sort of businesses use Luma AI in particular.
Yeah, so Luma is, at our core, we're an AI research lab. And our mission is to make generative AI solutions work for people like you and I, right? And to really make them work in the physical world rather than hypothetically or in isolation. The business was started by our amazing founder, Amit Jain, when a few years ago, when DALL-E came about and you could make images from nothing, he took a step back and thought, well, if you could do images from nothing, why can't you do video from nothing? And that now seems like quite a natural thing to say. But 3 or 4 years ago, that was really innovative thinking. So as the company's evolved, yes, we've developed some of the world's leading video models. We launch a new video model every 9 or 10 weeks. We just launched Ray 3.2, our latest video model. We also have an incredible image model called Uni 1. And the focus of the business at the moment, when it comes to models and comes to AI, is how do we unify intelligence? And what I mean by that is, currently when you're using AI models, there's an input, the model thinks, it renders, and then there's an output. And what we've cracked is unifying the inputs and outputs. So when you have an input, the model renders, and it continues to think, it continues to render whilst you do the output. So that means that the incredible quality you saw in your demo just now, that's not isolated just to a demo, that's business as usual for us, because we have the contextual understanding of what you want the models to do. So that's number one. And then number two is, a couple of months ago, we launched something called Luma Agents. So this is our creative intelligence platform. And I just showed you Moses, the 3-part drama series that we've done together with Wonder Project and Amazon Prime. This was all done within Luma Agents. And this is where in one place, across the entire creative workflow, from ideation through to 4K HDR output, you can access not only our own models, but also third-party models to get the best quality content, be it for a brand, be it for an agency, be it for a film studio, in one place, as close to the first time as possible.
And the agentic aspect of that will choose which model is particularly right for that particular prompt, is that right?
Exactly. So the key thing here is these agents are, they're independent, they're autonomous. So we've really spent a lot of time making sure that these agents work for the creative community. And that creative community could be a film director or a creative director at an agency. And then you really have sort of 2 modes in which you can interact, right? So you can isolate the model. So we've got multiple models in there, our own models and third-party models. And you can go, hey, I just want to use Ray 3.2, for example. Or you let the product really pick the best model for the job. You let our agents work away and go, actually, the best model for this is Ray 3.2 or VO3 or Kling or whatever. And really what this is doing is it's not taking any control away from the creative, because you can still choose. It's really putting the emphasis on the creative idea and the direction that you're taking the ideation of the concept. We don't believe that people should have PhDs in every single model in order to get the best out of them. That's what our agents do the heavy lifting on, and it means that, again, film directors or creative directors or really anyone involved in any form of creativity could be putting together a presentation can focus on that task rather than should I use Nano Banana or Uni 1.
Yeah, and the way to prompt on lots of these different models is very different as well. And as you say, it's I think from a user perspective, being an expert on 10 or 12 different AI video generation models is not realistic. So that's basically the problem that you're solving.
And I also think that exact problem is one of the reasons why, there's a big narrative at the moment in the market around adoption of AI and the productivity gains of AI, and they haven't been realized, right? And I think that's one of the reasons is that, the best bet that the AI industry made was develop sort of siloed models. Text over here, video over here, audio over here, etc. And where we see the world going is not having sort of these things chained together in a very node-based linear way, which in our mind is, brittle, it's unscalable, it locks you into the models that you've got at the time. And as we all know, models are improving at an incredible rate, not only ours, but also the others that you can access in our products. So by unifying those models across within our products so that you can focus on the idea and on scaling that idea, what we're seeing is the sort of erosion, the tearing down of those inefficiencies of jumping between different models in an unintelligent way, and the adoption of AI models in one place means that you can get the ideas out there, not only more quickly, not only are they more scalable, but it's also driving a lot of cost efficiencies as well.
Tell us about, in particular, I mean, it sounds like a long time period, but how have the last 12 months changed Luma AI? Because, as you say, developments are happening at speed right across the AI industry. I mean, what's possible now using Luma that maybe wasn't possible even 6 months ago?
So a year is an incredibly long time in AI. A month is a long time in AI. But if I think about sort of the last 6 to 12 months, number one is we've got to a place where we can get incredible quality and consistency, be it for brand work or for film work. So the hallucinations that the industry loved talking about 12 to 24 months ago, definitely a thing of the past, definitely. There's the famous Will Smith eating spaghetti thing. That's a bygone era. We're now at a point where the sort of level of quality, the level of detail that we're going into is, let's take the Middle East, for example. The color of the sand is different depending on which country you're in, right? So the color in the UAE is different to the color of the sand in Saudi or the color of the sand in Qatar. And in fact, I was speaking to someone from the UAE last week, and between the different emirates within the UAE, you could, the contextualization of that sand, how that sand looks, is different. And that's where we've got to now. And the thing that I sort of keep coming back to when I'm talking to people is, for the first time in a very, very, I think for the first time potentially ever, actually, the technology is definitely ahead of the expectations of the consumer. So when we're talking to customers, they all have this like aha moment when we go, actually, yes, getting your brand logo, fine, every single time, we can do that. Making it, getting the shoe, making it look like brand X shoe or brand X t-shirt or brand X car, that's fine. So we can pull context across multiple models. And that's a real game changer, because it means that you can rely on models in a way that you haven't been able to before. And then the second key thing is that as models evolve and as models are updated, the cost of compute comes down, the quality goes up, the speed with which they're delivering content quickens, and you continue to retain the quality and the control that creatives want. So we're in a space now where stuff that we were testing sort of 6 to 9 months ago, we can do now. We could do them 6 to 9 months ago, but maybe the failure rate would have been sort of in the, maybe the success rate was in the sort of 80 to 90% mark. We're now getting to sort of like plus 95% consistently. And that means that the technology is in a place where it can really be relied upon to deliver any form of creativity.
And that consistency is obviously key for brands when it comes to brand guidelines and creating, many different assets. And that's obviously why you're here at Cannes Lion, presumably targeting what sort of businesses? Well, tell us what you're doing here at Cannes Lion.
First and foremost, we're here at Cannes because this is a piece of technology for the creative community, and it's been crafted and nurtured by creatives that we have in our company. We like to say it's for the creative community. So it's very important that we're raising awareness because we do think it's a transformative piece of technology. Secondly, it's important that people try out and test our product, because the way we continue to improve it is not by just throwing it at you or at whoever. It's by having that two-way discussion. It's about having a partnership so that we're getting the feedback on what's not working, why is it not working, well, let's go and fix that. We're a very, go back to what I said at the beginning about us being an AI research lab, we're a very inquisitive and we're a very inquisitive company, and we like solving challenges, big challenges. So yes, it's about celebrating creativity, because without amazing creative ideas, the technology can take you a long way. But I was on a panel earlier, how do we make sure that someone who's 21 years old or 22 years old and spends their life on their phone, on TikTok, they still need an idea that resonates to them, and that has to come from a place of creative ideation, and the technology can do a lot of the heavy lifting. Then to answer the other part of your question, our sort of three buckets of customers are agencies. So obviously, the world's leading holding companies and agencies are here. Brands. So we're working very directly with brands to not just give them our technology, but also we give them our engineering brain power, our forward deployed engineers, to help deploy AI at scale across their functions. And then lastly, but I guess to a lesser extent at Cannes Lions, is entertainment industry, the film and entertainment industry. I mean, the major entertainment houses are here, but for Cannes Lions specifically, definitely our focus on agencies and brands.
And you talk about transformative technology, which obviously your platform is part of. But that's enabling real change within the advertising and marketing industries as well. You talk about brands working with you directly now. Actually, to a certain extent, they have AI teams internally now. That reduces the need for them to go externally to other creative agencies. They can be the creative agency themselves, and they can be the entertainer themselves, right?
There's no templated or cookie cutter approach here. There's some companies that want to outsource the heavy lifting of creative and even the operating of their workflows. And there's some fantastic companies that do that. I mean, I just think about Brandtech, Accenture, just to name two that top of mind, who really do that outsourcing function, as well as many other things. And then also, I sort of grew up at WPP, and I spent the last few years at S4 Capital, the parent company Monks. It is really brands tap into agencies to ensure that they're getting the cultural relevancy and that creative spark that you can't necessarily get in-house. So I'm not all doom and gloom about agencies or holding companies. I think they have an incredibly important role to play in the ecosystem, as they always have, and agencies are fantastic at adapting. And actually what we see is that when they adopt the technology, it enables them to do a lot more and to deliver for their customers. But you're also absolutely right. There are, and this isn't something that AI has fundamentally changed, I don't think, for years, for as long as at least the last 10 years, longer, there's been this sort of in-housing, are we in-housing our teams? Are we outsourcing our teams? I don't think that AI is going to lead to every single Fortune 500 company in-housing their teams and firing their agencies. I just don't think that's the case. It's going to be a hybrid where you can do a lot more work in-house and have that consistency and have that brand fidelity. But equally, the role of the agency, much debated, is in my view as important as ever.
And then finally, you said 12 months, 1 month is a long time in AI. We're always about looking ahead and seeing what's coming down the track. What are your key objectives in terms of technological development or capabilities of Luma over the next few months?
So we just launched our robotics lab, which is an invitation to people to come and build with us and continue to push AI forward and AI solutions forward. That's incredibly important for us because, as I said, our mission is to make Gen AI work in the physical world, and it's not just limited to amazing videos or amazing imagery. That's number one. So we're constantly pushing the envelope. Number two is I think this term has gathered momentum over the last few weeks. We pioneered the forward deployed creative function, where you have creatives who are incredibly skilled in AI but really understand the fiber of brand and good creative work. I think this time next year, forward deployed creatives are going to be they're going to be pretty common across organizations, and it's great that we can sort of shape that as the first mover into that space. Their main focus obviously being training and enablement and onboarding, and that's where we have that bilateral flow of information to make sure that the product's constantly improving. And then I also think something that we're very focused on is we've got some of the smartest engineers in AI and developers in AI and researchers in AI in the world, which is an incredible privilege to call them my colleagues. How can we get them closer to our customers to ensure that customers are receiving AI solutions that aren't just a generic box, but are truly customized to their requirements? Because the requirements of a fashion retailer are different to a automotive, are different to an agency, are different to a pharmaceutical company. And what we believe, and what I believe as well, is just offering a product in a box it will lead to some effectiveness and some productivity and some of that realization of the benefits of AI, but it's not enough. And we need to be there with our partners, be they brands, be they agencies, be they film studios, entertainment houses. We need to be with them, really making sure that AI is being fully leveraged in the best possible way for them. So that's where it will be in a year's time. FDCs will be a sort of fairly common term. Maybe the term will change, but it will be fairly common. There'll be FDCs walking up and down La Croisette, and making sure that we're really customizing solutions to complex enterprise brands so they're really realizing the benefits. I think's they're my two predictions.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll come back in a year's time and see how that.
Same place.
Yeah. Same place next year. Yeah. Exactly. Jason, Dave, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So my next guest on this week's Cannes Lion special telecast episode is Will Scougal, EVP of Brand and Commercial Partnerships at Studio 55 at ITV Studios. Will, we've got you on telecast. How are you doing?
I'm really well, thanks very much, Justin. Yeah, great to be here. Thank you.
Great to see you. And we're here in the TikTok residence, which is in the Carlton Hotel. And you've just announced a really interesting partnership with Tinder and TikTok, and a partnership with OMD as well. Tell us a little bit about what you've just announced.
So we've just announced Double Date Island, and at the heart of Double Date Island is a story that Tinder want to tell about dating, and that is that dating with friends is more fun. We came together around the proposition a couple of months ago, and we've been working to bring it to life. It's effectively a TikTok first reality dating show that's all built around the idea of best friends going on dates and having fun.
Fantastic. And really, it's kind of almost a perfect format, a perfect use of your IP that really was the reason that Studio 55 was created, right? I mean, tell us about, a bit more about Studio 55 and how you're looking to utilize the IP and work with IP at ITV Studios.
Yeah, sure thing. First of all, I'll just clear something up. Double Date Island is a Tinder piece of IP. So they actually created the show last year as a test, and what we're doing is bringing it to life as a TikTok first. So Studio 55 absolutely sits at the intersection of ITV studio thinking, so all of the creativity and expertise and world-class IP that exists within the ITV studios globally, and the way that we partner with brands and licensees. And at the heart of that sits the idea of activating fandoms. So we have a saying within Studio 55 that we believe that that fans are as valuable as the shows themselves. And I think that what Tinder have done with Doubleday Island and in working with us and with TikTok and with OMD is created an opportunity to bring something to life that is going to activate the fandoms around the Tinder brand, but through IP. And I think you're going to start to see a lot more of that at Cannes. You're going to see a lot more people talking about that idea of brands using IP to build their brands amongst the audiences that they want to talk to.
And so Studio 55 was launched at London screenings this year. So for anybody that doesn't know, tell us about the problem or the issue that Studio 55 has been created to address.
So I don't know if it's necessarily a problem or an issue that we're addressing. What we've seen within ITV Studios or within the Global Partnerships team is they've been going on a journey and they've been building out more capabilities. And with the launch of Zoo 55 last year, which has become a massive distribution vehicle for digital content, for ITV Studios digital content, we're effectively building a more media agency brand-facing and partnership to what's been created with Zoo 55. The Studio 55 is really the first steps that ITV Studios are taking, the Global Partnerships team are taking in working with brands in new ways, in adding a new gear to supercharge our brand licensing business. And so we're bringing together a lot of what has existed before, adding a new gear to it, and just bringing it back out to brand partners to partner in new ways.
And Studio 55 really is the home of creating original digital-first formats for ITV Studios, isn't it? Which is really interesting. Tell us about what recent shows or brands that you've created that are digital-first originals from ITV Studios.
So we launched publicly only, like you say, at the London screenings, which was only at the end of February, and it's been very, very busy since then. I'd have to say the response from the market, the industry, has been really fantastic. And I think there's a real appetite to work with Studio 55 as a kind of a new way to work with ITV Studios IP. So we do create original IP with brands, and that's, in some respects, it's about how we connect what brands want to talk about with the creative firepower that exists within ITV Studios. We also look at some of the heritage formats within ITV Studios and take those to brands for partnership opportunities. But since we've launched, the first project we did, which is an original, is It Started With a Kiss, which is an LGBTQ plus focused podcast, which focuses on queer dating. It's had an absolutely fantastic response. I think we've already beat all of the viewability of the viewing metrics halfway through distribution, and we still got some more to come. And there's been some fantastic stories shared within that. So that was actually the first step that we took with Tinder in our partnership. And now we're working on Doubleday Island, and we've got a number of different partnerships on the brand licensing side of the business as well. We announced a partnership with Poppy and with M&M's for Love Island USA, amongst a host of other partnerships. I think a number of those are worth referencing in a little bit more detail. So in particular, I think the way that Poppy and M&M's have realised and understood that audiences are really lent in and passionate, and they're talking and they're distributed across the internet. And they've looked at what they're talking about, they've listened to the audience, they've surfaced insight, and they've really plugged that into the licenses that they've worked with us on to create campaigns and moments and integrations that really do show the brand going from show all the way through to shelf and everywhere in between. So I think there's a number of different partnerships that we've got at the moment. They span everything from content to licensing integrations.
And so it's great to see ITV Studios and Studio 55 down at Cannes Lions. There aren't that many production groups or IP holders really down here, and it seems to be, you're quite an early mover in this sort of thing. I mean, what's your real ambition to be in Cannes Lions this week?
So we're looking to work with we're looking to meet with partners that are interested in working with Studio 55, interested in talking about IP, interested in talking about how brands can tap into IP to activate fandoms. I think that what we're seeing and what we'll see more of this week within Cannes is the importance of being able to activate fans around IP in ways that are not just a media buy. For us, fans aren't just a media buy; they're much more than that. And in order to work with IP, I think you need to understand the audience in order to create the right cultural on-ramp. Was it effectively about bringing people together around ideas? So we're here at the Festival of Creativity to talk to partners that are interested in that thinking, interested in building around IP, interested in building brands around IP, interested in building and activating fandoms. Because I think that's something that we can really bring to the table, certainly this week, that's very different from some of the other things that people will be talking about on the Quasette.
Yeah. And so this is just as much about co-creation, creating new brands together with consumer brands, for example, rather than just working with you on established ITV Studios properties, right? There's the opportunity to work and create something from scratch, as opposed to, or as well as working with established brands too.
Yeah, and I think Double Date Island's a really good example of that. There's a phrase that we used when we were talking about the launch of Studio 55 and the proposition around ITV Studio thinking meets creator craft, which is definitely happening with Double Date Island. There's all of the expertise that ITV Studios can bring to that production. There's all of the creators and the creative production that we're applying to bringing the show to life. But then at the heart of it is a really clear product truth that Tinder wants to talk about, which is that dating with friends is more fun. So I think what we've got there are three really important things coming together that really help us to create something new and different.
And so it's still very early days at Studio 55, obviously, as we said, just 3 or 4 months since launching. Going forward, if we were to look ahead a year's time, how do you think the relationship between TV studios, brands, creators and platforms might look like? How do you see that evolving?
So I really do believe that brands are leaning more into a need for top funnel metrics. Brands, I think, are looking for ways to differentiate themselves in the feed. They're looking for ways to differentiate themselves across their marketing and with their audiences. There's a lot of places where you're seeing similar ads saying similar things. And in working with Studio 55, what you've got from a brand perspective is the opportunity to bring together your objectives, the thing you want to talk about, and connect it with some of the amazing creative firepower that sits within ITV Studios as a production company that's built some of the most enduring entertainment and reality formats in the world. I think for me that's just such a compelling proposition, and it's a real privilege to be able to bring that to market through Studio 55.
And it's a move for many brands, I suppose, from the realization that there's functional marketing and then there's emotional marketing, isn't there? And a lot of brands are starting to realize that emotional connection through entertainment and becoming more entertaining brands and partnering with partners that can help them get there is it's got to be the a key opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, functional marketing, performance marketing has always been an important part of any marketing strategy. From my perspective, as has emotional marketing, the more top funnel stuff. I think that, like I say, I think that there is an increasing lens being put on that top funnel layer as a path to differentiation and really landing with people. So I definitely am not saying that building around IP and activating fandoms is the sole thing you should do as a brand, but I definitely think that it is one of, if not the most powerful path for building real brand affinity with an audience that's passionate and engaged as they are around really popular IP or IP that's built with real purpose and thoughtfulness.
And in terms of genres, I mean, when we're talking about digital first brand partnerships that are working, obviously you've identified dating as a particularly rich genre to be working with partners in. I mean, what other formats or genres do you think are ripe for partnership in with Studio 55?
We've certainly got a really broad brush of opportunities. You can imagine there's a lot of ideas and a lot of great thinking that exists within ITV Studios. I think we've got such a fantastic opportunity with heritage formats. We've got these formats that are so popular and so well thought out, and the opportunity to partner those with creators and brands to really bring them to life in a new way distributed through the distribution power of Zoo 55 is a really compelling opportunity. I think we've got a huge opportunity in vodcast and vodcast strategy, companion vodcast, things like that. I think we've got an incredible opportunity as we start to open up the doors to some of the labels that sit within ITV Studios and build brand partner content around adventure and reality and comedy and factual and all of the great things that ITV Studios does so well, and just thinking about how we can bring that to brands in the same way that we've been talking about, in a way that helps brands activate fandoms in a really compelling, relevant, thoughtful way.
Yeah, and one of your labels, 2-4, you obviously worked with them on It Started With a Kiss as well. That's that podcast show. That was one of the first opportunities that you got to work with a partner label.
It's such a fantastic example of exactly what we're talking about, bringing together studio thinking with creator craft to create something that's incredibly compelling, incredibly relevant. The numbers that it's been doing are fantastic. The stories that have come out are fantastic. The production is, that 2-4 have brought is incredible. We're really excited by what It Started With a Kiss has done in terms of starting to lay out the stall of exactly that.
Boy, you've got Plimsoll, Lifted, I mean, a Garden. I mean, you've got so many amazing brands out there. I'm obviously not mentioning them all, so as nobody feels excluded.
I'm almost nervous to start mentioning them because I'm worried I might leave one of them off. I mean, there's over 60 labels globally within ITV Studios, and they all create amazing content.
Yeah, well, amazing opportunity, and great to see you here. Thanks for spending time with us. Great to have you on TellyCast for the first time, and just tell us in terms of the rest of the year. We're only 3 months into your leadership at Studio 55. So, looking forward towards the end of the year, what are your key objectives now? How do you see taking Studio 55 to the next level?
Well, we're in a build and growth phase at the moment, and we are building our team, we're building our reputation, we're building our partnerships, we're building out how we approach our priority markets, and we're definitely thinking about how we grow some of the relationships that have been built in the earlier years of the brand licensing business, and turn those into bigger partnerships as well. So it's such an exciting time ahead of us. We've got huge opportunity around amazing pieces of IP like Love Island and Hell's Kitchen and The Voice. We've got a huge opportunity around heritage formats. We've got a huge opportunity around partnering brands and labels. And I am very much hoping that in the next, or rather the focus over the next kind of 6 to 12 months is realizing some of that, but with very clear focus, because there is a lot we could be doing. But we have got some very clear lanes of direction.
Yeah, but how do you do that? I remember chatting about the huge archive that you have and the number of brands that you have there. How do you prioritize those? When you look at some amazing catalogue formats and versus new projects.
Yeah.
How do you prioritize?
Well, I'm very, very lucky to have fantastic partners like Mike Beale and Tim Carter and Martin Trickey. Within ITV Studios, and working with my team, in particular Lou Black who came from the brand licensing team to be one of the leaders within Studio 55, and obviously the whole global partnerships business, which is led by Ruth Berry, who's a fantastic leader. So it's certainly not a solo project.
It's not all on your shoulders.
There are some fantastic partners, and there is a process that we have internally that helps us agree on where we can focus and where we should focus, and agree that we've got that we're aligned on our strategy, we're aligned on where we want to go and what we want to do, and we're trying to do something that's not just innovative within ITV Studios, but that's innovative for the industry and for the industry at large. So we're taking it slowly but purposefully, but as is always the case, when you do that, things start to move really quickly.
All right. Well, thank you for spending time with us here at Cannes Lions on TellyCast. So I'll look forward to hearing more in the coming months. But thanks for spending time with us.
Thank you, Justin. It's a real pleasure.
My next guest at this week's Cannes Lions special show is Emma Hardie, Commercial and Brand Director from Aardman. How you doing, Emma?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, nice to see you.
It's a bit warm, isn't it?
It's absolutely sweltering.
Yeah, this is going to get no sympathy from anybody in London right now because we know that it's pretty warm in London as well, right?
Yeah, I tell you what though, I've just been at Annecy Animation Festival and flown into Cannes today, and I've got to say Annecy was warmer, but we were there. So Annecy Animation Festival is amazing, and we were there doing a 50 years of Aardman big celebration. So it's quite a thing to be able to do both in 1 week.
Of course it is. Amazing. Well, there's lots to talk about. And but first of all, your role, you're a commercial and brand director at Aardman for an amazing selection of beloved brands that, you know, that everybody knows, Shaun the Sheep and Wallace and Gromit and many, many more. So first of all, tell us what you're doing in at Cannes Line. What's your main focus here?
Well, I think lots of things, as I think many people coming here, but so Aardman have made ads for 40 years, so many of the kind of nostalgic things I think a lot of us grown up with, whether it's like the Lurpak Man, Douglas, or like wine gums as juice loose, about this hoose. Sorry for the terrible accent. And, you know, most recently we've been doing campaigns with Barber and Lego. So we've been working with brands a long time, but we've got some exciting news in that we are kind of launching a new branded content partnerships strategy. So sort of evolving really how we work with brands. So rather than just kind of taking the briefs from agencies to make commercials for them, we want to kind of throw open the doors of the studio and take that next stage further and say, how can we co-create IP with brands? So I'm here meeting lots of brands, lots of potential partners, and kind of opening the doors to say, you know, we're open for business. And also not just a kind of new IP for brands, but also working on our own IP. So we, you know, Wallace and Gromit, Shaun the Sheep, we've done amazing kind of different, I guess, ways to see the brand and the characters, you know, with different partners. And that feels also quite an exciting opportunity. And in thinking about brands, not just as, I guess, advertising partners, but also as broadcasters of our content, you know, seeing them as potential financiers of our slate. You know, we know that Dentsu funded the Angry Birds movie. Aardman makes films, we make TV series, we make digital content, and we're kind of thinking, how can we work with brands across the whole spectrum, you know, not just kind of on ads.
That's really exciting because, I mean, first of all, the starting point is I mentioned how beloved your brands are, and they're totally brand safe from a starting point, so that's really attractive. But that's, you know, starting to co-create content and co-create IP. That's really exciting. What's driven that new approach?
I think we've loved doing campaigns with different brands over the years. I think it's a natural evolution where, you know, we've got Oscar-winning creatives, and to your point, that trust. People understand when they come to Aardman, you're going to get fantastic storytelling, great comedy, amazing characters. And actually, we did a System 1 report last year. Well, they wrote it on us, I should say, and they measured almost 100 of our ads over the last 40 years, and we were in the top 1% of ad effectiveness. So and the title of the report is Putting on a Show, and basically entertaining your audience works for brands, and we are experts in entertainment.
100%, yeah. I mean, that's the key. I think that's almost, you know, a really key learning or a pointer for TV production businesses and digital first businesses who are looking to work with brands, because it's, you know, I think many of them are that effectively, but many more are starting to focus on brands, as you say, as funders and financiers and partners within content. And, you know, it's that key storytelling and in buying into what it is that you can do that nobody else can, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, having that kind of knowledge of how to make great stories, you know, and that applies, you know, obviously for Aardman, but across loads of the TV sector, and that's what brands are excited by. They want to engage people over longer form content. They want to tell stories. They want to keep people coming back, and that sort of isn't about emotional connection. That's about understanding a character, following a journey, wanting to know what happens next. So I think we feel like, you know, taking that stage further from singular ads into kind of bigger portfolios of content. We did actually a great partnership with Coinbase, the crypto trading platform, last year, where we made 7 kind of little mini episodes, I guess, using our Creature Comforts format. So, you know, we've already started, I guess, on the journey, but we're sort of seeing the opportunities there. Brands really, you know, we love working with them. It helps us flex our characters a little bit as well, like takes them into new spaces in different ways that we might not have thought of. So kind of excited from that perspective. And yeah, being able to tell, more stories. And I think, I also look after the sort of brands and licensing kind of side of Aardman. And one of our big challenges is keeping our brands always on. So from an Aardman IP perspective, it makes total sense for us to kind of think, how can we, also co-create more content with brands to keep Wallace and Gromit and Shaun the Sheep, delivering new stories to our fans outside of the big films and the series, which might be, less frequent.
Yeah. And we'll come back to that in a second. We'll talk about digital first and social video and the importance of that and the change in the marketplace. But I think that's one of the things we've seen change significantly over probably the last 10 years or so, more so maybe in the last 5 or 6 years, is that brands are now looking, they realise the importance of that emotional connection rather than its sort of functional marketing. And that seems to be evolving much more into how are brands relevant in culture, how are brands, how to communicate and entertain their audiences, and that is a really key change that obviously you're very well suited to serve.
Yeah, and I think that actually comes down to character a lot. So we do talk to a lot of brands about mascots or kind of characters and how we can help them create a character, whether it's an animal or a human being or that has real emotion and that people connect with. And that, I think, is quite an exciting space because we love that. And we also love kind of, I guess, quirky, different characters that feel rooted in the real world, not necessarily the kind of, generic stereotypes with, the big eyes and the kind of heroes. We like an underdog. And we like, just as something that feels interesting and relatable and universal. So I think creating characters for brands feels like quite an exciting space. We'd actually 25 years ago, I want to say, we created a sheep, not Shaun the Sheep, a different sheep for Serta, a US mattress brand, and we're still working with them today. And it's one of the reasons I think they feel the brands remain so popular in the US is because of the sheep, which is on all their products.
Yeah. My favourite character, I've got to say, is the farmer in Shaun the Sheep. I mean, I love that guy. He's so brilliant. But when it comes to sort of character development, IP, you talk about IP co-creation. What's that process like? When you, not necessarily taking a brief from brand, but you start those initial conversations with the brand. You're obviously looking for their objectives and how they're looking to communicate with their audiences. How do you come up with a character that's actually going to address those objectives and deliver for them? Yeah,
it's a great question. And I think there's lots of different starting points, but I think probably brand values is the most important thing. Because often a brand, the words brands use for their values and that we use for our own IP are words you could apply to a character. It might be fun-loving, it might be, trustworthy, it might be, and all of those things, when you have a character that not sometimes speaks, sometimes doesn't with Aardman characters, but moves, and the movement and the comedy that we kind of view, I guess, in our characters demonstrate all those values. So it's the values that are the starting point.
Yeah, and obviously voice talent as well is like something that's so amazing within everything that Aardman does. How do you go about casting? I suppose it's almost like, what do you do? You create almost a blueprint and a sketch of a character that the brand can identify with and buy into, and then sort of go and bring that to life.
Yeah, I think it starts with the character, and then you want. We are big in kind of reflecting regional voices of the UK in a lot of our work and campaigns. So I think there's a lot of joy in that as well, that helps kind of inform character. So I think that's part of it. But yeah, I think it comes down to that character and getting kind of voice fit. And we often will have, great partners in casting with us on our films and things like that, to find those. And it's with the director, to help us define what they want, what they feel is right for that character.
And talking about the sheep that you created for the brand that you just mentioned, so is that an American sheep?
It's an American sheep, and it's a CG sheep.
Right.
So Shaun is stop motion and physical, but Serta sheep is CG, a little bit different looking. We haven't actually had Shaun and the Serta sheep meet yet, so that might be an opportunity. But no, And of course, we're working on another sheep at the moment. Well, I don't know if you call it a sheep actually. It's we're doing a series with Pokémon, and Wooloo is a kind of sheep-like character that we're working on too.
And that begs the question about different universes that you're creating with all these characters, and how they all overlap. I mean, forgive me, but I don't know whether or not Wallace and Gromit have ever met some of your other characters. Do they overlap? Is there a sort of a plan for this universe that's crossing over?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, Shaun the Sheep came out of a close shave, Wallace and Gromit's film.
Yes, of course.
So sort of Shaun evolved from that into his own universe, and Timmy, Shaun's younger brother, also has his own show. We just announced actually on Sunday, Let's Go Timmy, Timmy's new series with the BBC.
Right.
And if you look closely at Wallace and Gromit Vengeance Most Foul, you will see the farmer appears.
Yes.
So we like leaving those kind of little Easter egg nuggets.
Yeah.
And there is a world, and we do talk about a lot about visualizing that and where you go within that, and also the new opportunities for characters within that world, and where you can take that. So yeah, it's definitely something we're sort of thinking about and building more. It feels, it's a very rich world, the world of Mossy Bottom.
Yes.
And West Wallaby Street.
Yeah, and of course digital first, that which mentioned earlier on, that opens up that opportunity much more freely, I suppose, for you to explore and expand those universes and to work with brands as well. How, in terms of the conversations you're having with brands around digital first, and up till perhaps a few years ago, maybe even a decade ago, those maybe branded content conversation were pretty much exclusively linear broadcast only. But now, obviously, as we was talking about, brands wanting to entertain much more and want to create content on their own channels and entertain, have that closer relationship with their audiences and build their own audiences. I mean, what are the brands saying to you about working on YouTube and other social platforms, and how are you working and developing things together with them in that space?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think, obviously brands are, key thing is reach. So they're kind of really interested. We have 30 million subscribers on YouTube, which is a great starting point. That is a critical part for them. I think brand values. I know authenticity is a buzzword that we all keep pressing probably too often, but I think particularly for Aardman brands, or RIP I should say, the audience knows if a brand partnership feels right. And so it's really important for us that it feels authentic, it feels natural, and from that world, if you like, and so and aligned in values. And I think that's where it works best for the IP, it works best for the brand, and it works best for the audience.
So there must be so many brands that want to work with you, and I know you've obviously worked with many brands, but there's obviously a certain amount of protection from your point in terms of your IP. How do you choose the brands that you want to work with? Because you're in an amazing position of being able to do that, right? Which perhaps many other TV production businesses aren't, because of the strength of your IP. But how do you choose the brands that you work with?
I think it comes down to brand values and also audience kind of perception. So our audience knows when something feels right, and I guess we use that as a bit of a guiding principle to think about, does that feel right for the Shaun the Sheep world? Does that feel right for Wallace and Gromit? Creature Comforts is a lot more flexible. I think we've worked with lots of different brands from the first campaign, which was Heat Electric.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. So the campaigns that you work on, they're so memorable.
And I think that's where, that's what we love to try and create, is a moment that people talk about and characters that people connect with. But I think to your point about, who are the brands we want to work with, I'm excited as part of being here at Cannes is we are just announced we're hiring for a new role as part of this new branded content partnerships team, and it's a commercial director. And really that is to help us, find the brands that feel most aligned with what we're trying to do, that understands that brand well, that can help us navigate kind of the right partners for Aardman, and think about how we work with them across the whole portfolio. And also, not just on our IP, but create new characters with them. So I guess that the other kind of lens we try and apply is, we are still a relatively small studio. We sort of range between 250, 450 people, depending if we're shooting something. but our kind of brand and licensing and exploitation team is pretty, tight. So we do want to make sure that we're working with partners that really we can serve really well and that we can kind of create great content. So we don't work with loads all the time. We want to grow, but that kind of attention to detail is really important. And also, we have our own consumer products team and our own live events and brand management, digital and social. So I think we're also really interested in working with brands that are up for playing across all of those areas with us. We've got loads of live experiences in the UK and globally. So, it's an opportunity for brands to tap into that and, all of our products as well, looking at product collaborations. So we're sort of thinking about it, content-led, but actually beyond that as well.
What a great gig, commercial director at Aardman.
Yeah.
So what sort of person are you looking for and what sort of experience? I mean, obviously it's going to end up like a job advert slightly, but I mean, I'm interested in, a business like yours and the IP that you've developed. What sort of person is it that you're looking for that role?
I think we'd love to bring somebody on board that has a really strong understanding of what brands need from a kind of content partnership.
So somebody probably from brand world, do you think?
Yeah, I think probably from a brand world, maybe agency world. I think, who can understand all the moving parts, that balance of commercial, creative, that understands that, something might start with content but could grow beyond into other areas. So I think, somebody who's really used to being at the center of things and can balance, lots of different priorities. And also I think that creative commercial balance is really important because our IP and the creative of it is so precious. And if we, any partnership that doesn't quite fit, I think will only undermine that for both sides.
Yeah.
So it's somebody who's got great creative sensibilities to understand how a content partnership is going to be additive and maximize the kind of opportunity for both sides, but feel right.
And also somebody I imagine that can sort of sense on the brand side what their approach to co-creation, because it's quite different, isn't it? Co-creating IP, particularly with Aardman, it's a very different approach rather than working with you from your existing IP. So there's almost like somebody that presumably understands, creativity, but also production, the realities of brands and their values and translating that across to a creative brief, if you like.
Helping to translate that kind of that creative process for brands and take us on the journey, because I've come from a live action and entertainment background, so animation is pretty new to me.
Right.
Since joining Aardman a couple of years ago, and it's a completely different process.
Yeah.
You write the film, any film, short or long, you write it in storyboards, which becomes your animatic. And once you've written that, that's what you animate to, frame by frame. So it's not like you can change the script the night before.
Yeah.
So there is an attention to detail and a process that is, that I think this role will be, immersed in. And it doesn't matter if you haven't come from animation, that's fine. I think we're that world we can bring to the role, and then it's how they can help us translate it for brands.
Yeah. And you talk about that process and the storyboarding. A lot of the conversation clearly at any industry event, but particularly at Cannes Lion this week, is about AI. And obviously, one of the key aspects and the key sort of brand pillars, as I mentioned, of Aardman is that handmade approach, and that's one of the reasons that everybody loves Aardman, because of that. I mean, how are you working with AI? Do you work with AI in any sense, or how does AI fit into how Aardman produces content now and in the future, do you think?
Yeah, well, we've always been at the forefront of tech innovation within our production processes. So in that context, we are exploring what AI can do. Probably not generative AI, I would say, but AI tools and things like that. Certainly in our, I guess more traditional functions like finance, HR, IT, we have those too. So why wouldn't we explore it there?
Yeah.
We are employee owned. And that means that we really kind of try and consult with the business as well on how we should approach it. And I think what the audiences want from us is handmade.
Yes.
And I think they would feel incredibly betrayed
Yeah.
if what we produce was AI or generative AI. So I think we know our USP is handcrafted.
Yeah.
Whilst, we will explore tools that might make sort of some processes, in the production process more efficient. But that's an evolution, and I think we're keen to kind of keep our finger on the pulse with that.
Yeah.
But certainly kind of keep to our core kind of principles of handcrafted.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's reassuring to know. I'm sure. So when are we going to see the farmer in his own series or own digital content series?
Who knows? Well, I think we're really interested in what the fans want, honestly. So hearing that people might be interested in the farmer, that's great to know. And actually, talking of kind of audience feedback, we've just started 2 months ago with what we've called the Shaun residency. So Shaun the Sheep is now a creator on TikTok and Instagram. And we are animating specifically for those platforms. It's the first time we've done it. And we've got our little booth set up, little unit set up for shooting. And it was really interesting to your kind of AI point. We're thinking, how can we create for these platforms at pace? Because you need to be part of the cultural zeitgeist. And, many people will probably know we capture 1 or 2 seconds of content a day when we're animating stock frame. So there's a sort of natural limit on the volume that we can produce.
Yes.
But we are trying loads of new techniques, and actually it's proved so successful. The team have got new animators coming through every month, so it's kind of giving loads of our junior animators, assistant animators opportunities to animate for, in a slightly more autonomous way than when they're on a big movie. And equally, it is having a major effect on our channels. We were, I think, growing by about 20,000 subscribers a month on TikTok before we did this, and in the last 2 months it's been 200,000 a month. So wow. 10x growth on subscribers, which is, just reflective of the fact, you tell the right stories in the right way in the right platform, and it works and resonates. And Shaun is able to play. Shaun's perfect for TikTok because he's an entertainer. He is great fun, and he can be mischievous, and he can kind of play in that world. So I think we're really mindful for each character that, what makes sense for them.
Yeah.
Shaun's working fantastically well on social, and we've done a lot with Wallace and Gromit in gaming. So we've done like a power wash simulator game
Right.
for Wallace and Gromit, which is done brilliantly, and also a walkabout golf, kind of like a golf game as well for Wallace and Gromit, and that's done brilliantly. So again, it's like thinking about the IP first and the creative and what makes sense for it.
Yeah. And finally, on your own IP, you've recently announced an installation with a show, I guess, at Lightbox, right? And tell us a bit about that.
Yes, we're doing a show at Lightroom in King's Cross in London, and it's opening in the autumn, which is really exciting. It's going to be amazingly immersive experience. And we're working with the Lightroom team at the moment, creating the show, and it's for our 50th anniversary, so it's going to be a kind of delving into all the characters, all the craft, all the history of Aardman.
Brilliant. Okay, can't wait. Well, I'll be first in the queue for that. What I love about your characters at Aardman is just the very mention of them. Some of the like creature comforts, they just make you smile, right? I mean, that's it must be an amazing brand to work on.
It is, and I think, well, I'm glad you said that, because I think the company purpose is to make people smile. So I'm glad it's having that effect. But it is, it is a joy and a privilege, and it's a lot of fun. And I think, what feels really exciting is, particularly like a 50th milestone as we are, is looking ahead. There's quite a lot of new exciting things. So our new series, Let's Go Timmy, for the BBC it's a hybrid stop motion and 2D kind of new way of producing.
Right.
So that feels kind of exciting. And equally, our series with Pokémon that is coming 2027, I think is going to really excite people and see what we do in a new way as well. So yeah, and we've got Shaun the Sheep, the Beast of Mossy Bottom coming out this autumn. So it is all systems go.
And what about, I'm not trying to coax any exclusive announcements from you, well, maybe I am.
You've already had one.
Yeah. But what about platforms like Roblox? Again, those would seem to be, you're creating universes, that would seem to be a natural brand extension.
Yeah, we're exploring them all. We have done some Roblox experiences with the BBC. So within the BBC's space on the platform, we've had Shaun the Sheep and Wallace and Gromit play in there, which has been quite exciting. And we're talking, we're doing a lot of exploration at the moment in the game space. So I'm kind of quite keen to do more of that and see how we can expand that. but live experiences too. You know, more and more people want to feel that kind of sense of community in real life. So that is a big play for us, and we've got everything from a real life reconstruction of the farmer's house from Shaun the Sheep in Japan, which you can visit. People get married there.
No way.
Yeah. To, you know, people getting tattoos of Feathers McGraw in China. So the fandom knows no bounds.
Amazing, amazing. Well, Emma, maybe we can have a bit of a deeper dive into Aardman at some point. I'd love to come and visit you in Bristol.
Yeah, come down to the studio, Justin.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to. I'm sure people will be, you know, really interested to have a bit of behind the scenes there. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations on success. Good luck with everything, and have a great rest of Cannes Lions.
Thanks. Enjoy Cannes.
Well, that's about it from a red hot can. I hope you enjoyed the show. We're now taking our traditional summer break, and we'll be back in September with lots more new shows and, of course, the run-up to the Digital Content Forum on November the 5th in London, and it's looking like it could be a sellout already. In the meantime, why not check out our back catalogue of over 270 shows, and also loads of recent content from the studio and our events on our YouTube channel. In the meantime, have a great summer, and wherever you are, as always, stay safe.